Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Impactful Conversations. This is part two of the Energy Expert Story series, which is powered by Sebenzana. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Rosalind Dos Santos, who I will briefly introduce in a second. But this is, like I said at the beginning, part two of our Energy Expert Story series, which you would have seen. You would have seen part one if you haven't checked it out already with Tom Canning. Which is an awesome chat last week that we had with him. So you can check that out on Impactful Conversations on co.za. And if you'd like to submit any questions to Tom, head over to the Contact Us section and he will gladly answer your questions. But coming to the episode today, I'm thrilled once again to be joined by Rosalind Dos Santos, who is the Group Energy Manager of Mpact Group, a paper packaging and recycling company in South Africa and Namibia. She oversees the group consumption of electricity, gas, HFO, coal, and all other energy forms, and has a dotted line to a team of 22 technical specialists in the group that execute energy efficiency and energy management projects. She also develops and executes on business cases for renewable energy at Mpact, and she has 13 years of experience working in the sustainability field in South Africa and Africa. So it's a good thing that that's exactly what we're talking about today. She's also part of the Future Energy Leaders Program on the World Energy Council for 2 years, and in 2020 she was elected to the board of the local South African WEC member committee. So Rosalind is a rock star, and I am absolutely thrilled to be joined by her today. Rosalind, good morning. How are you doing today?
Morning, very good. Also excited to be here.
Excellent. And it's a privilege and an honor to chat to you virtually, under the current circumstances. But Rosalind, we typically start off our episodes by getting to know you a little bit better, getting to know the person a little bit better. So take me back. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? And what are you passionate about?
Sure. So I was born in Joburg, Jen, actually, daughter of a single parent. I grew up in Joburg most of my life, other than 2 months that I spent in Germany and 4 months quite recently in Chicago. And I love the environment, nature, quite passionate about sustainability. I love travel, seeing different places, meeting different people. I love food, really love food. Family, friends, yeah, that's me.
Awesome. And thank you very much for sharing that. I wasn't born in Joburg, but I'm a Joburg kid at heart. So yeah, you and I have a commonality there as well. So another commonality that we have is we both study chemical engineering. So I'm quite curious to know, is that where your passion for energy in a broad sense began? Take me through that. I'm very, very interested to know.
So I guess the past sort of 6 months to a year have been quite surreal for me, because originally I'd started Chem-Eng thinking, how amazing would it be if we could have a hydrogen economy and clean energy. And my thoughts, when I started sort of 2004, you would have never expected that we'd moved so fast and come so far so quickly. I thought, I'm going to study this because it's a big goal and it's broad, and it would be amazing if we could have power where the only byproduct is water. And then all of a sudden, the world seems to be here and everybody seems to be ready to have this discussion. So I was a bit surprised by that. I chose it because I thought it had a lot more to do with chemistry than it really does.
Right? It doesn't have much to do with it. It's strange.
By the time you find that out, you're halfway through, and then you're like, well, this process stuff is not so bad. We might as well finish.
It's too late. You're too far down the road. Yeah, it's too late. That's awesome. That's awesome. So I also know that you completed your Master of Business Administration as well. And I know a lot of our sort of listener community are always curious about, this particular degree. I'm curious what made you decide to pursue it, and what was also behind. Maybe talk through a very interesting point around the MBA, which is the timing of it, when to do it. Why did you do it, and when you decided to actually do it. I'm very curious to know.
So in my previous role, I used to take a lot of projects through like a forum called the Cost Prioritization Committee.
Okay.
And generally, I would have to spend about 2 weeks with a CA, sometimes a team of CAs. They'd work through a lot of my modeling, and often very, very little would be changed. But I had to do it with not having a financial qualification.
Yeah.
So then I started thinking, like, what can I do to close this? And I was thinking maybe an undergrad BCom. And then I thought, but if you're going to spend the time and the energy, maybe do an MBA. It's very recognized. So at the time, it was just, I felt like I had a financial gap. I needed to close it, and I wanted a financial qualification. I wanted my projects to go a little bit faster as well, so I didn't have like the 2-week roadblock. And I signed up. I'd been considering a financial qualification for years, actually, probably since 2012. And as you say, the timing's hard, and it's a big commitment. I often do things sort of quite quickly once I've decided. I think about it for a while, but once I've decided, like, I'm all in. So I think the application deadline was the 31st of October. I think I decided around about the 27th. I then looked at the requirements, and I was like, oh, these are intense. I don't know if I'll finish these by the 31st. So I got hold of admissions, and I was like, look, I think I really want to do this, but the deadline's like 4 days away, and I haven't written any of my essays. I haven't taken the test that I need to take. Like, how is this going to work? And they said, look, we think we're actually going to extend by a week to the 7th. So it's like, okay, perfect. Yeah. I'll start studying now, but I'll let you know when the first date I can get for the test is, because you have to write this sort of test to get in. It's sort of a very intense, like, amalgamation of almost everything you've learned your entire life. And I got an appointment for the first week of December. They said I could apply without having the results in yet. I then needed to go write the test and meet a certain score, because if you're below the score, then they won't let you in. So I might have paid my application fee for nothing. But I did it. And for the first term, the whole faculty called me the late applicant. But then they knew me, and they started using my name, and it was all fine.
I think it's a fantastic degree to do, and I think it's extremely fascinating. The timing of it is directly linked to sort of achieving a specific purpose. With that degree. So I also know that you have led multiple big projects and initiatives in your career thus far. So, what would you say are some of the key lessons that you've learned in those processes within that you could possibly share with us? That would you say that are pertinent?
Sure. So I think the biggest one is you need a person with like real heart for the project. Because things are only insurmountable when you give up.
Yeah.
And you need that person that's gonna like pull it through. Because there's problems on every project. Be they small or large, there's always unexpected things, like irrespective of how well you've done your pre-feasibility, how well you've done surveys. If you're going to dig, the moment you dig, like, you're going to find something that you did not know was there.
Yeah.
And then you need to like work with what you have at hand to then shift, alter, plan, make safe, and continue. Also, you gotta build your team and your network. You need at least one person that knows the project as well as you, ideally more, so that you can step in and step out and everybody can help each other. More than that, there's always like this challenge when you take projects from project phase into operations phase. And I've always been very, very like clear on needing the full operational team to walk the journey with me, with us, with the whole project team.
Yeah.
But even then, it's a big shift when you're on the project delivery team to now this is yours. You must take it, you must run it, like you must deal it. And that's, having people within the journey, it makes it easier, but that's always a challenge. And then your personal network is far more powerful than you think or than you realize. Often on projects, I've gone to people for help thinking I was completely lost. And then they've brought me people that I know to help solve my problem. And I'm just like, why didn't I do this? So just, use your network.
Yeah. I mean, that's really, really pertinent, right? I think when you talk initially about having the heart, for the project, I think it's extremely important to have people who, really have a passion to drive a project forward. And, when you spoke about, sort of handover from projects to operations, that, sort of ownership of the project is super, super critical. And, the part about the network, I think sometimes we really underestimate that, right? I think sometimes we really, really, really underestimate the power of that. And it often comes at moments when you least expect it. So I think, that's quite a key set of lessons, and thank you very much for sharing that with us. So similar to the MBA application, we started off quite fast, quite intense. So I'm gonna tone it down a little bit. So I want to know, what is a typical day in your life? Walk me through it. What time does it start? How does it sort of ramp up? How does it sort of ramp down? What time does it end? If it ever ends, I'm sure you must be quite busy. Yes. I'm quite curious, does it ever end, right? I'm very curious. What's a typical day in your life?
I almost never have one day that's the same as the next. Which I love. So it depends what's on the schedule. It depends if we're traveling. It's interesting working a group role with sort of 40 different plants, and a little bit more challenging in the COVID world now that the flight schedule's reduced.
Of course, yes.
So if it's a traveling day, it's sort of a 4 or 5 a.m. wake up to get on a 6 or 7 a.m. flight, which is terrible, because the team knows that I'm barely a person before 11. I just get better as the day goes on, but really not good in the morning.
It's quite interesting. That's really, really, and sort of following on from that, you're obviously a very, very busy person, and your time is extremely valuable, I'm sure. All the more reason why I'm grateful that you've allowed us some time in that busy schedule to have this chat. But how do you recharge? What do you do to recharge? What do you do to switch off?
So just going back a bit, I think it's always important to make the time. You never know what an engagement, what a meeting, what a discussion is going to bring. And just giving up that opportunity for connecting and discussing with people. I've had in the past, and I always offer, like, if people want to see me at 5, if they want to see me at 6, like, it's fine, because I'd really rather that we have the meeting, have the discussion, rather than I miss something or you miss something that could have been really, really valuable. But yeah, I've been working to try and keep it between sort of 8 and 5.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work so well. So I have at the moment tap dancing on Mondays and Fridays, and I love it. It's my cardio.
That's like the most fun type of cardio that I've ever heard.
It's like I don't even feel that I'm doing it. 2 hours of cardio done, and it's just enjoyable.
That's amazing. That's absolutely incredible.
I got into a really good lockdown habits where I was doing daily yoga, sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes. I've taken a little bit of a break while I was recovering from something minor, but yeah, looking forward to getting that going again. It's also the mental strength to get on the mat at 7 a.m., especially if it continues to be 4 degrees in Joburg.
Yeah, it's very cold. It's very cold. It's extremely cold here. Oh my goodness me. I can imagine. Yeah, that takes a lot of determination. You mentioned that you love food. Curious, favorite type of food? Any restaurants as well that you particularly enjoy in and around Joburg?
So love lamb, and a shout out to all the farmers in the Karoo making Karoo lamb. It's just exceptional, world class. So much like world class produce is farmed in South Africa, and we're so lucky to be a country with people that grow and farm. Recently, we stopped by at Saint in Joburg. It's sort of Santon precinct. We went to celebrate the next phase of rollout of solar PV projects for Mpact. So very excited for what's coming in 21-22. And it seemed like a big milestone. And like when I reach these, it's good to just like pause and say, like, look at the journey that we've come. It seemed like we wouldn't be here, and now we're here. Before, like, you pick up the next thing and run to the next thing, just so you know, like, this was something.
Yeah, it's absolutely profound, right? I think sometimes we shouldn't get caught up, in the sort of daily routine and so on. We should really celebrate, the sort of milestone. So, congratulations to you and your team with that. And you picked a good restaurant to go to.
I went really high end, but if I go like family restaurants, there's a little Portuguese one in Bedford View called Tony G's. We regulars there. It's like hearty, home cooked, tasty food in a comfortable environment, run by like the same family for generations.
Oh, it's lovely. So, you just get a different feeling when you walk into a place like that, right? I totally agree, and I'm a huge fan of lamb. So you and I get along quite well. So, I get along quite well. And you spoke about South Africa, and you spoke about the country and so on, and segueing into building a sustainable future for South Africa. And I know that you are passionate about sustainability. And I really want to dig into this. What do you think are the key components of a sustainable future? Also energy, underpinned by energy, in South Africa. If we are to build one, what are those key components that we need to focus on?
So I gotta give a nod back to Colleen Vogel. She's at WITS, one of the climate researchers, and actually one of the contributors to the UNFCCC, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. She works on the assessment report. She's one of the writers. And I was fortunate when I was doing my master's to be able to take one of her climate courses. And she took us all the way back to the Brundtland Commission and the definition of development now to meet the needs for the future. And then sort of said, but we've shifted and our focus has changed, and now we're really about balancing economic, social, and environmental. And then definitely there's been movement from there as well. There've been a lot of different models. A lot of people are using natural capital, but that balance of economic, social, and environmental, it's sort of quite simple in concept on the financial side, very much on triple bottom line. Other ways that people have sort of looked into this as pricing in environmental externalities to start bringing them into our balance sheets, our income statements. And there's value in all of the different approaches and the different lenses that we look through it. But if we can evaluate every project on a balance of economic, social, and environmental, and provided that sometimes economics wins, sometimes social good wins, and sometimes environment wins. If we can start trying to bring these all into a much closer balance, I think that's where we're actually going to see sort of true sustainability. We're running with a balance of technology. We've got a lot of set infrastructure at the moment, and we need to maintain it and use it as we work towards the shift. Also, like looking to the future energy leaders of the World Energy Council and quoting what some of the amazing people have said there, is we really need to look at who is not winning in the energy transition. And we've got a lot of talk here about just transition, but we need to make sure that communities that are built around coal and fossil fuel, that there's something for these people to do, something for them to go to, because like these are lives, these are families, often these are like generational skill sets in one area. So shifting into something that's slightly more sustainable, I think it's immensely important, but making that shift while keeping sort of the individual like souls and hearts and minds, keeping them in mind. I think that's how we all win. So I think we build with new technologies, we build with innovation, we build with bringing in as much new technology, as much new skills, as much new thought as we can, and we leverage what we have on the ground. We've got an amazing resource potential, and I think we are looking at that in terms of battery metals and energy storage. We've got amazing natural resources, and we've really started to see renewable energy come into its own. And then I think we really need to start looking into sort of more interesting ways of planning technology. And I think in a few years' time, this is probably an IoT type solution. But I really think like the old days of base loadism are over. I think we've got to let things peak, but we've got to design for the peak and design for the flexibility and design for the resilience, which also brings in like a more complicated element being so far down south in South Africa, because there's not too many places to interconnect and link to.
Yeah.
But with that said, like large gas finds just to the north of us, fields that are estimated at being like larger than the Qatar fields, can totally change the whole sort of region's economic outlook. A little bit worried about the engine refinery closing and what this means for us in liquid fuels, but perhaps there is an alternative. We talk very often of the shift from road to rail, and maybe this is one of the catalysts that can push us in this direction, changing from liquid fuels to another energy source. I know there's lots of people looking in a very focused way into leveraging farming with low water crops that don't need good quality arable land to start making biogas or liquid fuels, and perhaps that's a good solution if it's not going to displace food production. But I think absolutely a balance of technologies, and never to forget energy efficiency, sometimes called the first fuel. There's always a lot that we can do just into reducing waste and being more efficient in what we're doing now. So even in the long-term climate projections, often energy efficiency is bringing as much of a third of what we need. And I think if we refocus and drive there, as well as innovation and new technologies, I think that's our sustainable future.
Yeah, and I think you've really summarized that exceptionally well, and thank you for that. I think that
You are so kind.
yeah, it's true, right? It's true, right? I think the key phrase that you used there is balanced, and I really love how you've taken the people approach into that as well, in the sense that we really need to, have a big focus on our communities, on people, on employment, to make sure that our balanced approach caters for that as well. Because, and I love the phrase that you used, that we all win. And I think that's, that is really what it is to build a sustainable future. And it's an ever-changing landscape, right? It really is. I mean, 10 years ago, you couldn't have predicted, exactly what would have happened. Of course, we can have broad projections, some which have been true, some which have been, are yet to come realized at the moment. But it's an ever-changing landscape. So I really, harp on about exactly what you said around, thinking of the future, designing for the future, and, having a big focus on the planning for the future, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years into the future of South Africa. What does that look like? And I think that's a big proponent of building a sustainable future. And within that building, do young professionals have a role to play in this, if any? And how? That's the obvious answer might be yes, they do. But how? And focusing more young professionals, not just young engineers, but young professionals as a whole. Big proponent of the listener community to Impactful Conversations is a series of young professionals. In different industries and different, some who are still studying, some who've just finished studying, some who have gone to trade schools and so on. What future do they have to play in building the sustainable future for South Africa as a whole?
Yeah, so absolutely, not just yes, absolutely. Young people are often the people with the hearts for projects. I always say you can teach skill, but you can't teach sort of like passion and drive. You can't teach that I want this to happen. You have that, and you have that belief, and you have that I want to see this project run out, or you have that I'm coming because I have my job and I do my job and then I go, which is also like equally valid. There's people that are coming and doing their job every day. Their focus, their drive, their passion, that's often at home. They're rearing children, they're helping elderly people, they're helping grandparents, they're helping their parents, they're helping their communities, they're working through perhaps faith-based organizations, and that's their passion and their drive. But if we can find the young people that have the drive and the ambition for energy, for climate change, for sustainability, the people that are going to find the way to make these projects work. And you'll get multiple barriers. You will be told so many times no. You'll be told so many times it doesn't work like this. You don't understand. And like, as a young person, or if I can still call myself young, I'm probably going a bit beyond that.
No, you're still one of us. Don't worry. You're still one of us. You're still one of us. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to get that feedback, and it's hard to get it over and over and over again. But the way I see it is you have to be like the water. You have to be like flexible. And in that flexibility, there's power. I mean, if you see what water does with persistence and time, like it changes landscapes, it changes everything. And we need young people to bring that passion and enthusiasm for change. And this is beyond just advocacy, although advocacy is an incredibly important component of this. I would say you must be like the water, and you must go wherever you can to make whatever your dream is a reality, because it's truthfully, it's only impossible when you give up. If you just keep trying, and take every opportunity and use it to the greatest ability that you can, and if you show up and you do your best, and if you are the best version of yourself every single day, there's nothing that's going to stop you from succeeding. So yes, like, don't give up. Keep knocking on the doors. Keep being there. Keep saying this is important. Keep saying we need to address it. But yeah, say it to different people, because if you just say it to the same person all the time. So okay, use your network.
Coming back to exactly what you said earlier around the network, exactly that. And I think that's exceptional advice, and thank you very much for that. I think the role that young professionals have to play is often understated, and I think really that is what that is going to be a key proponent of building a sustainable energy future and a sustainable future in South Africa as a whole. And coming more to sort of the sustainability portion of it as well, carbon footprint reducing technologies is a big focus at the moment. There's a lot of talk around that, and I guess firstly, for those who don't know, what is it all about? And secondly, how do we advance this field in South Africa? In your opinion, what do you think we need to do to advance it in South Africa?
Sure. So I guess we got to go back to the beginning, and we got to talk about climate change, anthropogenic climate change, a number of greenhouse gases. And to start off with, sort of, greenhouse gases are not bad. If we didn't have them, like, our planet would be uninhabitable.
Yeah.
It's amazing that we have these gases that block and hold incoming radiation, that our planet doesn't drop to freezing, uninhabitable temperatures the moment that the sun is no longer shining directly on the portion of the earth that we sit in.
Yeah. But
the problem is we're getting a few too many greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, mostly due to human activity and exploiting fossil fuels and sort of carbon-based stored energy that's been around for millennia. And as we're starting to get CO2 accumulating, and it's not just CO2, there's methane as well, and nitrous oxide. There's some electrical gases like SF6, and all of these sort of molecules just block more and more radiation that's trying to leave the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And our planet and our weather systems work on a very, very delicate balance. Often it's all about heating and cooling in exactly the right space to keep sort of global air moving, or to keep water circulating, to keep sort of the weather and the conditions that are conducive to human life. So we're sort of changing something that's in a very, very delicate balance, and starting to see sort of greater extreme weather events, greater frequency of occurrence. And climate change is complex, because I can't say that one flood that's climate change, or one event. It's sort of a series and a pattern. It's a progression along time, and pulling the trends and starting to see that actually the 1 in 50-year flood is now actually happening 1 in 20 years. And our infrastructure is just not set up for this. It's not able to cope. But on the good news, it doesn't matter where CO2 is emitted or not emitted. Like 1 ton of greenhouse gas abated here is the same as abating anywhere else in the world, because of the way that the whole climate and atmosphere moves. And that's also how you can have a carbon market, and how you can trade emissions sort of as actual sort of financial instruments, and use that as a framework and a tool to start mitigating climate change. And even if we don't believe anything that I've just said, which I think is unusual considering global scientific consensus, is it ever good to use something boundlessly that we know is finite? And looking at people and humanity based compared to like a geological timescale, we are such a small piece of sort of the progression of the world to date. So, I mean, should we not conserve things that we know are not in boundless supply, that we know it would take organic matter thousands of years under absolutely the right conditions to become oil, coal, natural gas? Should we not just pull back a little bit on that and use something that we know is going to be there every day, and the day after, and the day after, and the day after, irrespective of how much we consume? So I think that's sort of the basis of why we want to reduce carbon. We want to reduce carbon for people, for our ecosystem. As much as the world is delicate, biodiversity is delicate, and one small component missing could sort of cause problems for whole biological cycles. There's some sort of interesting discussions at the moment for what happens just when an apex predator is gone, and how it can sort of filter down through the whole ecosystem and destroy everything if not kept in sort of this very, very delicate balance. So what do we do in South Africa? I think we continue working on energy efficiency. We continue working on innovation and new technology. South Africa is world leading in measurement and verification. We continue to run and develop and drive that part of industry. And I think we start localizing the value chain more and more. It's become sort of less fashionable to be in sort of a sort of full value chain of services, where people are saying, let's just look at the portion that we're good at and the portion that we excel at. And it's a very valuable management tool and management strategy, but as many things, there are multiple approaches that you can take. Taking a step back and saying, well, why don't we integrate along this value chain? We're installing a lot of renewable energy at the moment, but a lot of it is being imported. And there's economic arguments to import. There's economic arguments to invest and develop. And I think we really need to look at this with sort of a longer term horizon. I think we often we run in a short term cycle of sort of either like political election cycles or financial years or 5-year plans or 10-year plans. And I think the further we can take that out, and the more willing we are to accept our returns, be they financial, environmental, social, over a longer time, but still like an acceptable timeline. This needs to be improvement within people's lives. I think we can then make these more difficult decisions now that say, you know, we put down the investment, we put down the infrastructure, and we work really, really hard for 5 years, and then we start to reap benefit. But it's difficult, and integrating along your value chain is tough. But I mean, what if we didn't just mine the battery metals? What if we actually had the factories that made them? What if we didn't just buy the solar panels? What if we didn't just import the blades for the wind turbines or the structures? What if we had sort of the capacity from extraction all the way to finished manufactured product, and sort of the lives and the people and what we could achieve and what we could enrich by going sort of the full length of that value chain. I think that could be huge. It could be huge for South Africa. It could be huge for innovation. It could be huge for development, and then sort of partnership integration. This is getting very big.
We're laying out the plan, right? We're laying out the national plan. That's what we're doing. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing, and that's impactful. So it is. That is exactly what it is. Absolutely.
Doing everything that we can in our power to enrich and develop the lives of those around us in this beautiful country, in this beautiful continent.
I think that's extremely profound, and I think the focus really, you know, challenging us to think differently from what we currently have. You know, like you said, if I quote your phrase at the end, you know, doing everything that we can to enrich and develop the lives of our people. And what does that mean when we build a sustainable future? I think you've really given us a lot to think about, a lot to, you know, challenge, you know, our thinking on certain things and certain status quos that we have sort of accepted, you know, that this is just the way it is. We import this, we import that. You know, why can't we manufacture it? Why can't we make it here? Why can't we do things differently? And what you've suggested is transformational, right? It actually is transformational. It's transformational for the country as South Africa, but it's also transformational, you know, the country as South Africa, not in the broader sense, but for its people. But it's also transformational for Africa as a whole throughout, because then, you know, South Africa sort of leads the way in that part, and, you know, hopefully other countries, you know, follow suit. And, you know, there are ways and means for us to collaborate and to do that, you know, on a broader African scale. But Rosalind, I just want to thank you for fantastic chat. Yeah, sure. A really enriching chat, full of knowledge, full of, I think, challenging our thinking. But like I said, I wasn't actually, I wasn't saying it lightly when I said we laid out the plan, right? But that's exactly what it is. How do we build that future? And thank you very much for outlining that for us, and for telling us, you know, a little bit about yourself and your journey, and what you've been through, the decisions that you've taken, like I said, the mountains that you've climbed, the valleys that you've been through, and sharing some of those key lessons that you have, encountered with throughout. So I just want to thank you so much. I hope that you've enjoyed it as well. I hope it's been an enjoyable process being on this podcast, and I hope some of the questions weren't too difficult. But I hope that you've enjoyed it, and thank you so much once again.
Sometimes these big things, they seem like insurmountable, but every journey starts with a success, and every small thing that you complete and then you can build upon and do more. If we have many young people, many entrepreneurs, many businesses just building on them, these big dreams are possible with the small actions we take every day.
Absolutely. I love that phrase, and thank you so much once again for sharing that.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful phrase, yeah. And to you, the listener, from Rosalind and myself, we want to thank you for listening to this. I hope that it's been impactful. I hope that it inspires you to go and build the sustainable future for South Africa, within your community, within your sphere of influence. I hope that this has been a wonderful chat, and I hope that you share this with your friends and family, your friends and family's dogs, friends. And I hope that you've enjoyed this, and we will see you in the next episode of Impactful Conversations. Please do subscribe to the podcast or the YouTube channel, whichever platform you are listening or watching this on. And until next time, please keep well, keep safe, and bye-bye.